my friends around the world. Welcome to MTD. Again, we are excited to present to you my friend Greg at Datanomics. We are in Massachusetts at a company called DFF, and we are changing manufacturing analytics one machine at a time. We're going to learn a bit more from Greg and how exactly this is done. Greg, welcome to MTD.
Thanks for having me, Tony. Really appreciate it.
Well, as you are the expert on this, and I'm really just learning about how significant your software is, I'm going to let you tell our watchers here a little bit more about when you started and what you do. Would you mind sharing that with our audience?
Yeah, more than happy to. Thank you. So we're Datanomics. We're a production monitoring software system for discrete manufacturers, very focused on the CNC machining industry in particular. What's very popular out there, folks understand with the backlogs we have today, the demand that we have today, we need to be running our machines more efficiently. We need our people running our jobs more efficiently, and so everyone's kind of trying to break into this world of how do I get real-time data from my machines? How do I use that to drive productivity, increase profit? So we're focused squarely on that space as a company. You know, what's really unique about us is that when we connect up to the machines, more than providing sort of the standard, what's my uptime, what's my downtime, what's my utilization, our software actually comes up with benchmarks on its own for every part number that companies make. So we understand what's your expected cycle time, what's your expected utilization, what's your expected part production on every single part number that you make. The best part about it is no one has to tell our system anything. There's no operator input required. We literally plug into the machine, data starts flowing, your jobs are characterized, and you now understand how do you really perform, how do you should be performing, and where do you want to focus to drive more and more out of your business.
Well, if I'm a customer and I've been running just fine for years, why would I want something like this? How do I convey that information and the significance of being able to run better and produce more and maybe be financially stable kind of a thing, right? Like this software is significant in all of those platforms.
Absolutely. So, you know, running just fine, right, is a funny kind of thing, because when people see what are their real cycle times on their jobs, what are their real machining times, how does that compare to how they've quoted the job, which maybe they have run for years, and they say, wow, we've been slipping 3 to 5%, you know, for a few years, and all of a sudden we're 15, 20% off of where we thought we should be. And just with where the technology is today, you know, folks push a job out to the floor, track it in the ERP system, hope for the best, hope to get it done on time. But what really happens in those 3, 5, 7, 20 days, whatever it is that a job runs, is largely a mystery. And we're trying to help people take the mystery out of that and understand what's your real performance.
So let's break this down to its most simplistic nature, because you're the professional. Obviously, the level that you understand is far above the level that I understand, and probably some of our viewers out there. So when you're saying we plug it into the machine, we're now recognizing when it's running, when it's stopped, the changeover times, the efficiency of how does that really, when I look at it on the screen, which we're at DFF and the screens are everywhere and I can visually see it, but our guys right here, they want to learn as well.
Absolutely.
Break it down in such layman terms that people go, now that makes sense.
Absolutely. So we plug directly into the machine controller. That gives us access to a lot of information. As you said, we know when the machine's running, we know when it's not running. We know what program it's running, so we know what part number you're making. We know when the part counter ticks up. We know when it's in setup, we know when it's in changeover. Our software takes all of that raw data and turns it into a very simple visual picture, just like you see up on the TV screens all over the place here, right? Here's the job you're running. Here's how it should be performing from an expected cycle time standpoint, you know, button push to button push. Here's how it should be performing from a machining time standpoint. Here's how you're really performing. You see that your jobs are not running to standard as you expect them, and because it's tied to the specific part number that you're making, it's very actionable information. You know, the folks who work on these factory floors are experts. They know their jobs inside and out. They know exactly what the machining operations are. When they see, wow, you know, we've slid 4 minutes off of the expectation, there's something that I need to dig into there. So it's about taking raw data straight from your machines, visualizing it in a very simple package. What am I running? How am I supposed to be running? And how am I doing? And then broadcasting that to folks all across the shop floor with a simple scoreboard so they know where are the biggest threats to production today, where are we going to focus our attention to get the numbers up for the end of the day.
I like that you said scoreboard. That kind of makes it fun, like a competition.
Absolutely.
But while you were talking, I was curious, and you can elaborate on the scoreboard thing if you want to in just a second. But I'm curious, when we say a machine isn't running as efficient as maybe it should or could, is that based on what we've quoted a customer in order to do that job? So are we looking more at how can I do a better job quoting a job, or are we looking at how can I do a better job machining a job based on the expectations of quoting?
It's a great question. It's actually both. So what you typically have is you've quoted a job, and there's someone who's put all the thought into what's the engineering required, what's the operator turnaround time going to be on the part, and they've come up with an expected cycle time. What happens in reality is largely, for many companies, completely an unknown. It's a best guess. So your quote bakes in 20% fudge factor for inefficiency, 10% fudge factor for I'm not sure how the tooling's going to go, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of guesswork on the quoting side. So you're going to get what is the real performance? How does that compare to the quotes? That's absolutely a major component of it. But then once you have that performance standard, when you are out there running that job each and every day that part's on the machine, are you doing the best that you can to machine that component? So it's the combination of those two things, mapping it to the business objective in terms of the quote, and then as the job's running live, real time, looking at that scoreboard, are you hitting your numbers? Are you achieving the way you're supposed to be while you're in production?
Who determines those numbers on the production side of things? I understand fully how I could fudge a quote and expect something and the number's not even come close to relating to, well, I forgot I need to change some end mills, or I need to set up a completely new vise, or whatever it might be, right? So if I understand that it typically takes me 4 or 5 minutes to run a program, how do I know, well, maybe I should be at 3? How does your software help with that?
Absolutely. So this is kind of the beauty part of our system. We're watching part-to-part performance. So we're watching each and every cycle time. Every time you make a part, our software is actually getting smarter about how you should be performing. So we're doing kind of our own statistical analysis under the covers, and we can watch you make 30 parts and say, well, okay, based on everything that we've seen, we think you should be running at 3 minutes and 45 seconds, to use your example. And you're doing that at 87% efficiency. There's one stop, somewhere in the middle of the part. So the software figures out these benchmarks on its own by doing a statistical analysis of how you actually run, and the benchmarks are biasing towards your better performance. So it's like the Apple Watch, right? We've watched you walk around the neighborhood 10 times. We know that you typically are doing it in 35 minutes, but we know you really can do it in 29. So we're holding you to 29, and that drives immediate business performance.
Well, I could do it in 29 minutes on the day I'm either really excited or really mad. I don't know about what my average should be. With that being said, statistics and averages typically don't come just because I think they should be here, right? It takes time.
Yep.
What's the average amount of time for these statistics and averages to really make sense to a company?
This will blow your mind. It takes only a few parts. So we've done a tremendous amount of work. Our engineering team has done a tremendous amount of work to find the signal in the data and figure out real machining times, real cycle times very quickly. You put a new job on a machine, it's the first day we've seen it. We'll know within 3 to 5 parts how you should be performing, but the cycle time is always calibrating over time too. So as you make process improvements or the more you run, the tighter we're going to get to actually how you should be performing.
So not to downplay your product in any way, but it almost is plug and play, now it works.
Exactly, you got it.
That's amazing.
We tell people, we connect to the machine, you hang up a TV, and you can read daily email reports. That's all that's required to make use of our product and take advantage, because we're doing all the heavy lifting on the data and the analysis to come up with how you should be performing and how you are performing.
And if somebody wants to be a part of working with Datanomics, is there a size? Like, would someone with 5 machines find benefit from it? Like someone with 1,000 machines?
Sure.
How does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our smallest customer is actually 6 machines. Our biggest customer is north of 200.
Wow.
And we've done everything in between. What it comes down to is, what is the mentality of kind of the ownership or the leadership team? Are you looking to be data driven? At sub 15 machines roughly, you might find a very involved owner out there on the floor, maybe runs a couple machines, knows all the jobs inside and out, and says kind of, I'm on top of it. You get above 15 machines, you start to have supervisors, you maybe start to have a leadership layer, things are more delegated, and so there's now an interest in having the data feed in to understand what's really happening out there. So, even customers that are sub 15 machines, like I said, our smallest is 6, it's because they're data driven and they're growth oriented in their mindset. If those two things are true, it doesn't matter what your size is, you'll find benefit, but we typically have found 15 plus to kind of be the sweet spot.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, in my head, which is often wrong, you guys know this, but occasionally I get things right. It certainly won't be the last time. If I think of a big company, I think, well, there's probably a little bit of money to throw around, right? And if I think of a small company, even like a garage shop type of thing, I'm very concerned about making the right quotes because my profit could be my success or failure after 3 months, 6 months, 9 months time, right? If I'm not quoting correctly, then I could be out of a job and out of business in a very short amount of time, which is where I think someone like Datanomics, where you guys could come into play and help really understand how that quoting can be done. With that being said, what's the investment to be a part of Datanomics for someone that's smaller versus someone that's larger?
Sure. So there's definitely price efficiencies at scale, right? The larger companies are going to get a better per machine software subscription price, than a smaller company. With that being said, the best way to phrase this is actually a line I stole from a customer of ours when they were kind of doing their own internal justification. They said, look, no matter the size of the shop, for basically the price of a part-time employee, I have a system that knows every single job I run, knows everything about it, cycle times, expected performance, has all the historical information to help me look at my performance in the past and quote better. And it's always on, it's 24/7, it can't get sick because it's software, and it always has an answer for me. I'd probably pay 3 times what it costs. I said, perfect, I'm going to use that going forward.
I like that. Do you find that this software is equally as significant, or it leans one way or the other when it comes to humans running machines versus, as you see behind us, automation running machines? Does Datanomics lean one way or the other? Is it really universal?
Universal, yeah, that's a good question because, a lot of times you're looking at, take milling jobs, for example, complex milling jobs, maybe it's got to stop 2, 3, 4 times per part because there's, just a lot of operator interaction with the component. Sometimes that you're more interested in seeing if that's the nature of your work, okay, what's the human factor here that's playing into our efficiency? That being said, the robotic cell right behind us here is one that we instrumented because the interest was in, are we getting as much as we absolutely can out of the robots? How many more machines can we support in a particular robotic cell to drive up the throughput, maximize the investment on these very expensive robots here on the tracks, and just make sure we're getting as much as we can out of that automation investment. So we've instrumented robotic cells, we've instrumented manual cells, we've also directly instrumented robots to show how efficiently they're running and how often they're kind of moving up and down the track or doing their thing.
Well, the next thing we need to do is put it on the manual machine so we can really test those humans. So we've talked about plug and play. Do I need a plug for each of my machines? Is that how that works? So I can have one screen, but then I have something that connects to each individual machine that goes into that screen, so I have the data collected for the screen?
Yeah, pretty much. So you just need a network connection to your machine. So, most machine tools, 2000 and newer, have an Ethernet port on them, right on the controller, either on the back of the machine or right on the controller. If your machines are already on the network because you're using like a DNC system to move your programs, we can just take advantage of the fact that you're already on the network. If you're not on the network, we can help you get the machines on the network, either hardwired or connect them to your wireless network, put a small device on each machine, that gets it onto that shop floor wireless network, and that gives us the ability to start collecting that data right in the facility.
When you say we collect the data, it's very obvious we're at DFF today that they're collecting the data. Do you also collect the data at your facility as well at Datanomics?
Yeah, so we're a cloud-based service. So there are computers that sit within the facility for data security purposes to help us with NIST and ITAR compliance. Read the data right off the machines, encrypt it, ship it up to our cloud service. Customers access the data like the scoreboards that you've seen all over here. Those are just accessed through the web browser, through a secure site that our customers have access to. So the data is always available to the customer no matter where they may be.
Now this question might be irrelevant, but I'm curious. Do you also offer services like an advisor? Because you're reading the data, your customer's reading the data. Do you say, hey, we're seeing something that maybe you're missing and offer advice in that area?
Sometimes we do. That's kind of more part of our training. So we include free, unlimited training with our software subscription. To be honest, a typical training is a few hours, folks in a conference room or on a video conference, just, kind of looking at your own data, looking at your own jobs. When you see your own part numbers, your own cycle times in our system, it just clicks. You immediately understand everything that the system is trying to tell you. But we include unlimited training, so if there's something unique about a job, or someone says, hey, I see this pattern in the data that doesn't quite make sense, our team is more than happy to clarify and provide assistance and guidance on that kind of stuff.
Unlimited free training. You'd lose money on me, brother.
We'd be more than happy to take care of you.
I do appreciate that. So for those who are watching right now and they're interested in what we're doing and what you're doing, how can they find you?
Absolutely. So you can find us online, datanomics.io, datanomix.io. There's a live chat right on our website. You could connect directly with our sales team. Someone would be more than happy to connect with you, arrange a demo of the technology. We got plenty of great case studies on the website as well. About the very facility we're standing in is one of those case studies. It's a great read.